Yeah. There's a talkative cat here that might chirp up here every now and again. So
Sometimes
no,
she'll just meow just because she needs a little bit more affection.
no, that's exactly what's going on here. My man can't. He sleeps. He's been sleeping for the last 2 hours, and I've been doing nothing. And now I get on. Now I get on. He wants to yap and run his mouth.
Right, right. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I think there's a limited time on this, so we'll
Okay.
try to talk through it, and maybe if we need to do an additional one, we will.
Okay.
So let me start off by saying this is Keenan of Street Career Sports Training. Welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. This is episode 8, and I'm doing a special interview with my man, Coach Michael Steward. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Now, hey, now I gotta ask you because you know they always ask, I've been asked before, like, okay, so if you're still a coach or if you're not coaching anymore, how long does the coaching label last for you to still be a coach?
It depends on how many former players you have, or how old your former players are.
I know. So you always gonna be Coach Stu to me, man. No matter
I
what.
appreciate
So, Coach, let's start off by telling the listeners, about your coaching journey.
Wow, my coaching journey actually started when I was in junior high, and surprisingly enough, I a friend of mine and we were, I was an eighth grader. Yeah, we were both eighth graders. Um, we coached a termite league baseball team. So kids 4, 5, and 6, right? The first foray into baseball before they. And where I grew up in Douglas, Arizona, right on the border. It's a big baseball town.
Hmm.
So kids. So everybody played. Everybody. I played termite. Everybody that was growing up. We all played termite league baseball. So we coached a team our eighth grade year and then our freshman year, and that was my first foray into coaching. I was 13-year-old kid.
Wow, wow, and it just blossomed from there, huh?
Not really, because you know, I never thought about being a coach. That wasn't something that I ever thought about being.
Uh huh.
And then fast forward, you know, 20, 10 years later, I'm in college, and I kind of just fell into it.
Right, right, right. Now, as far as coaching on the college level at any capacity, whether it's associate, assistant, head, how long were you coaching?
At the college level, I was an assistant and head coach for 2011 basically to 2020, about 10, 11 years.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. All right. And um, without going all into all the details and stuff, you were the head coach and athletic director at the time at Tohono Otham Community College. Did I?
I thought you were going to get it this
Huh?
time. I thought you were going to get it this time.
Man, I've been practicing it. I'm worse than Charles Barkley when he trying to say Giannis Antetokounmpo and Shaq
Um,
So let me get a little bit into I'm trying to use this as a means to ask questions and stuff. So
yes.
let me ask you a question about when you were recruiting. What did you look for in a player when you recruited that player?
Um, a, a few things. Dependent. Of course, it was dependent on our need, but I always looked for a kid, one that wanted to be coachable, a kid that played hard, and a kid that was a good teammate.
Right.
And we used to going back to when I was coaching high school and into college, we always talked about body language. That was, a good, bad, and different. when you're, when you're the guy, when you're on the floor, you're getting minutes, and things are going well. What does your body language look like? When things don't go well, you're on the floor, and things don't go your way, or something bad happens. What does that look like? What do you look like? And one of the big things that I always love to do when I go recruit is I love to sit across. I love sitting across from the bench of the kid that I'm recruiting, or close enough that I could, if I can't get across, and I'll sit right behind, and I'm looking at how that kid interacts when on the bench, to his coaches, to his teammates, because at the college level, when you have one kid who's not coachable, that takes away from everybody else.
Right.
So that was those were a few of the things we look for, but those were usually the top of my list. And, of course, and you and I've had this discussion before, sometimes the more talented a player is, you know, the less some of that stuff matters depending on, what you're comfortable with in terms of sacrificing, in terms of what you're comfortable sacrificing is, the level to which, you can take a kid who might not be as coachable, but is super talented. So that
Right.
there's always that fine line.
Right. Sound like the cat agrees with what you just said. um, Next question would be, what are some things you wish kids worked on early before they got to college?
Um, I don't know if there's one thing in particular. I
Uh-huh.
would say footwork is a big thing.
Yes.
Um, growing up playing, you just going up and playing in the park, or, playing pickup, you know, we just take that for granted. You go out there and play. But the
Right.
way the game is played now, and how, how intricate everything is, and, you've got people scouting and trying to take things away, the better your footwork is, the more successful you'll be. Whether it's coming off of a screen and having, a split second to catch and make a decision, you know, uh, defensively, your footwork, having to get through screens and adjust and switch. Footwork is probably the thing I wish kids worked on the most.
Do you feel like, would you say, because I notice it when I'm, training, and when I actually go watch basketball. Matter of fact, there's a tournament this weekend up here, and on the boys side, AZ Campus is up here. The not the national prep, but I believe it's their high school varsity
Yeah.
team is up here, and they played Franklin High School yesterday, and they won. Apparently, it was a very controversial call. Even somebody who was there, who was rooting for Franklin, said they believe that Franklin got some home cooking. so, so
Hey,
that
that's why you play at home, right?
yeah, you want to have those advantages. So, um, when you talk about footwork, the point I was gonna get to before I sidetrack, some of it is my age. Point I was gonna get to was, do you feel like players today are more equipped, or are better skill wise in everything than what they used to be?
I go back and forth over that. And sometimes I think kids are more skilled than we were growing up. And then there are times I think they're less skilled. And
Yes.
and now, now sitting here thinking about it right now, sitting here articulating it, I actually think they're more skilled about the game, but I don't know if the IQ is necessarily as good as ours was, growing up. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes, that makes a ton of sense, and it lends itself to when you're for all you have. I tell people, you watch film and the film doesn't lie, and I
No.
think I think people are so enamored with, a pull up three, threes, and having extremely, nice handles, that teaching them to actually be able to play the game has become more, I guess I should say, have a headache than what it should be.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It, there is a lot more. There's a lot more that goes into it. Just looking at it on a, watching a game, looking at like somebody coming and doing a pull up three. There's so many things that come into play that we, talking about just besides the skill,
Yeah,
who's taking the three, why are they taking it when they're taking it, is there a better option, you know,
right.
and that's some of the things that going back to coaching when we talk to guys about that all the time. Well, some guys, hey, you have the green light to shoot that shot, but I've got to trust that when that's a good shot and when's a bad shot. And
Right,
then there are some guys that's never ever a good shot. And
right.
so I think that's, going back to that question about, comparing kids now to then. I think kids now don't always understand the difference between, hey, this person is, that's Steph Curry. He's got the green light to shoot that shot whenever he wants. I'm not. I've got to make a better decision.
Yeah. Now, I'm actually glad that you mentioned that because on a previous episode, my last episode, I delved into pecking order.
Yes.
And what I said is that you need to be able to have a defined role, and players need to know and understand, who's the alpha. And my
Yep.
suggestion is you let that play out in practice and the coaches, because once you get in that gym, you know who that guy is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, and if there is some kind of question of it, the coaches usually make that decision. And sometimes it seems today that kids as well as parents seem like, oh, well, now you need to be shooting, just as many shots as your teammate because you have to be able, to score and stuff. So what are your thoughts on the pecking order, and how did you allow that to play out?
Um, we one I believe in a system where you don't tell kids when we gave our guys the freedom to shoot whenever,
Hmm.
but we made sure that we went and did everything we could to understand what shots they could take whenever. The difference between a good shot for them and a bad shot for them.
Hmm.
Um, so we a lot of time, a lot of time scrimmaging, a lot of time, we especially in high school. College was just based on the logistics of everything. We always didn't have a lot of time to do everything we wanted to do, but we used to shoot a lot when I was coaching high school basketball, a
Hmm.
lot. And going through those all those different shooting drills, guys see who can shoot and who can't.
Right.
And you mix up teams so you have a good shooter with the bad shooter, and you try and mix it up so they're even. And kids know who can shoot and who can't. Who can. Maybe a kid's a bad shooter, but for some reason, when the pressure's on, can make a shot. And the more we did stuff like that, shooting drills and shooting competitions, the more kids understood their pecking order. And we said, hey, a lot of things that when we design sets, say, hey, okay, this is our first option, this is our second option, and we tried to break it down as best as we could so everybody understood what their role was, and when they could do what they wanted to do. But I don't think I've ever been in a situation where we told a kid he can't shoot.
Right. Well,
You
I guess what I was in the previous podcast, what I was alluding to was a situation where if you got a kid going and that kid is hot, and everything is flowing and it's going through that kid, then you have a situation where someone else on that team decides, well, now I need to start looking for my shots and getting my shots off. That's kind of what I was referring to when I said pecking order. Like you should always know who your number one option is. Now,
yeah,
obviously, within the offense, everybody gets to shoot, but I've seen games where a kid is hot, or if this is your best player, this is who's supposed to be getting the bulk of the offense, But then you have another kid that's like, no, I need to get some shots too. That's kind of what I meant with the pecking orders, knowing like, yeah, you can shoot, but
Yeah.
if he's hot, you need to keep feeding him the ball.
Yeah. And that goes back to one coaching.
Hmm.
And a lot of times that might be a parent. That might be something, you know. So sometimes kids can be selfish. They're kids. That's they're supposed to be.
Right.
But sometimes that goes into, yeah, I need to get mine. So and so's going off. I need to get mine. Or it's a conversation that's being had, not even outside the gym at home, where
Yeah.
mom and dad saying, hey, you need to shoot more. Like,
Yes.
Jimmy takes X amount of shots. You need to be taking those shots.
Right.
And
Right.
that's sometimes out of the control of a coach. You can't control that. The best you can do is try and put your kids in situations where they understand, you know, what their role is, and if the guy's hot, he's hot. Keep feeding him.
Right.
And at some point, he's not going to be hot, and then it's your turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now I wouldn't say like I'm not saying that if a kid is wide open, he
yeah,
gets a shot, he's supposed to pass it
yeah,
up. It's just like that's it's kind of a delicate thing. You have to basically, to me, you'd have to go through film and say, look, you weren't open and you forced this shot because you hadn't taken a shot. That's bad basketball. Here,
yep,
you took this shot. It was within the flow. Even though this kid has hit 5 in a row, you took this shot. This is a good shot. We're fine with that. Don't just try
yep.
to match shot for shot. Okay, so let me ask you, what advice would you give young basketball athletes looking to get recruited?
Um, one, be one, make sure they're taking care of their academics. That's that's the big thing. The better you are academically, the more opportunities are going to open up to you, and you have a higher chance to receive more money. And that's kind of the thing that people forget. Like, yeah, there's a scholarship that's involved, and that's great, but depending on where you go and depending on how good you are athletically, yeah, there might be a scholarship, but there also might be additional scholarships that actually put money in your pocket and don't just cover your tuition and your dorms and your books and whatever. It actually puts money in your pocket. And so that's why, one, academics should be your main focus. And not everybody's going to be a 4.0. Not everybody's going to be a genius, but the better that you do academically, the better it's going to be for you.
Yeah.
Uh, the next thing is be receptive to whatever level. Um, the pandemic kind of screwed up a lot of things for a lot of kids,
Yeah.
and it used to be, well, I'm going D1. Well, a lot of those kids that were D1 kids that were playing high school ball, now that the way it is at the college level, where with the transfer portal and everybody getting an extra year of eligibility, there's a logjam. So those high school kids that were D1 kids, that were borderline D1 kids, D2, played low major, those kids are now pushed back because guys have extra eligibility, so they're staying. Why would from a coach's standpoint, at the college level, would you take the chance on a kid who's a freshman who you've got to develop and groom, or a kid who's already been played at the college level for 2 years already?
Right.
So be receptive. If you're D1 talent, but D1s aren't calling because they don't have any spots available, be receptive to that D2 school or an NAIA school, because some of the programs at the NAIA level and D2 level are better than Division I programs. It's not, it's about getting in where you fit in.
Yeah.
And level, you'll find level that you're going to be successful at. And another thing that kids always want to do is like, oh, I want to go D1. Okay, but do you want to go someplace? Would you rather go to somewhere Division I, where you're basically a practice player for 2, 3 years, 4 years, or would you rather go someplace where you're in a rotation, you're the guy starting day one, and then your role increases each of those 4 years, and senior year you're the guy. Like, it depends. You've really got to you've got to really judge the offers that you're getting. You know, if it's going to speak, hey, we want you to come in, we're going to redshirt you, and then knowing the next year they're going to be recruiting another kid at your position, and is it worth it to go to that bigger school? And I had that situation happen. I had a kid that was in high school recruited by Bobby Knight to go to Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. And he had offers to go other places. He had offers to LMU and a couple of other schools that he could have gone to and had more success. I always say he didn't have a successful career because he graduated, he got his degree, he played professionally. But after his freshman year, they recruited somebody else at his position. In sophomore year, he's now playing behind a freshman. Mm-mm. And not getting the same amount of minutes that he got as a freshman.
Right.
Could he have gone to another school and been in a situation where, he comes in and they're not recruiting after him because that's his spot? So that's what you have to, as a kid, you have to gauge. And some guys like, I don't care. I'm going to go. I'm going to get there and I'm going to put in my work and I'm going to be the guy. And that's a great attitude to have. But there are a whole lot of other guys that come in and have that same attitude.
Right.
So academics, your level, and I guess another thing is weights. Make sure that you're in shape. Yeah. Get the weights. You're strong. You can play through contact. You can get up and down the floor. That's another big thing that, and I know that's a lot better now than when we were growing up. Right. I don't think we ever lifted a weight in high school, did we?
No, we didn't. I mean, we just played against grown men. That was our that was our deadlift.
Exactly. Nowadays, lifting and doing, getting your body in shape, because it's a physical game. Even watching the Warriors and they're running up and down the floor and shooting threes and this and that. There's still a level of physicality to the game that your body needs to be prepared for.
Oh yes. I think Steph took that jump when you could see the difference. I think it was a drive against Al Horford in the finals, and usually Horford was riding him, kind of trying to nudge him out, getting to the basket. Normally Steph is kind of pushed out and he's not able to get, but he was able to hold him off and make that layup. And I know some people were saying, even he said that was the biggest change was his core strength and how he got stronger to be able to absorb that contact. So I don't think kids really fully understand until you've played somebody at a higher level that you have to be physical and be strong and have the strength.
And you don't have to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No,
I mean, you just got to you've got to build up your muscle mass.
Right.
And your body, take that contact. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I got one more question on this portion. I think I've mentioned it to you, but I'm gonna bring this up because for those of you who don't know, my man Stu is an avid golfer. I mean, like serious. So I'm gonna ask this question because this has started some mess around with people that I know.
Okay.
Do more people play golf than basketball in a day?
Yes. More people play golf than basketball.
You lost your damn mind, Stu.
Here's why. Here's what I say. And you can do this anywhere. Drive past a park that has a hoop and see how many people are playing. And then drive by a golf course and see how many people are playing.
Stu, there's only so many golf courses in the city.
I know.
And then when we're looking at courts, are you talking outside and inside or just outside?
Yes, both. And it pains me to say it. And you and I have had this conversation a bunch of times. Kids don't play pickup basketball anymore.
Yo, I like to give a shout out to my sponsors. Next Style Designs. Next Style Designs makes quality shirts or custom apparel for all occasions. Next Style Designs. Mind Inc. Mind Inc. offers a wide array of digital media. Mind Inc. asks, are you using your mind? Southwest Basketball Showcase Recruiting Service, the link between your coach and your dreams. Maracay Zero Down Solar. Call Greg Suber for your solar needs. PCS Plus is the carpet service for all your cleaning needs.
They don't.
Yeah, nah, I'm thinking about. Well, okay, so we would exclude PE at elementary school. We'd exclude that, but like lunchtime, kids out there playing on their own, playing basketball in the evening. After school, you're out there playing basketball. Yeah, hey, we're going to have to get together and find somebody and get a grant and do some actual research.
Yeah.
Because I'm not buying that.
Well, think about it this way. During the pandemic, gyms were closed.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of places, they took the rims off the backboard so people couldn't, because there's
right.
social distance and everything. Golf courses didn't close.
Right.
And how many people do you know picked up golf during the pandemic?
Oh, I'm sure there were quite a few. There were quite a few that picked up. But I'm thinking about the neighborhood that I grew up in, where there's always somebody over there playing rain, sleet, or snow. So we gonna have to agree to disagree, and I need to let my listeners know. This is all just about the fact that he loves golf. This don't have shit to do with being right. See, he need to be agreeing with me. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and end this part, and then we're going to take a brief break, and then we'll pick up after this.